Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm Marilyn and my channel's Making with Marilyn. Now I do all things crafty, but on today's video I'm going to show you how I put this bling shirt together. Now I designed it last night. I really wanted something 4th of July inspired, but I wanted it to be something that I could wear all year round. So this is what I came up with. So if you're interested in seeing how I put this together as far as putting the rhinestones in the templates and pressing them on the shirt, keep watching the video. If you're interested in the design, I have it in my Etsy shop and I'll put a link to that in the video description below. All right, I want to go ahead and start by showing you what I'm going to use today. And I'm going to start with this shirt. It's a Gildan. I just get these at the Dollar General. Then since this is the first time I've ever used this file that I made, I went ahead and cut it on cardstock. Now this is not the preferred method. A true rhinestone flock is the preferred method. This is the gold standard. It has a sticky back, so you can stick it down to something to keep it nice. And you can use that thing over and over and over. Now I tend to use cardstock if I'm just trying out a file or if it's something I'm just going to use once or twice, because I can actually cut this super fast in my Glowforge. Now my rhinestones, since this is a 4th of July inspired shirt, I have a red, and I got these from Be Createful. These are SS10s. I have a sapphire. I got these off of Amazon from Beadsland. And then, once again, the gold standard in Hot Fix Rhinestones. I got these from the Baby's Booty. Now to brush my rhinestones into my template, I'm probably going to use this little brush. I also have a larger one, but typically I prefer the smaller one. And these are just paint brushes. So you know when you put it in the paint and you trim something, or on this one you can do bigger areas, that's all these are. Then I just have a knockoff crystal katana, picks up the rhinestones. So if I have some holes that don't have a rhinestone in them, or I have a rhinestone that's upside down, the wax tip on this picks up your rhinestone. Now you might prefer to use tweezers. That's another option. And then because I'm using my cardstock, I'm going to use some painter's tape today. Now typically, if I use glitter cardstock for something that I plan to reuse, then I go ahead and glue it to one of these cutting mats that you can get from the Dollar Tree store. And that was a great tip from the Baby's Booty quite some time ago. Now one thing though, if you're going to put this onto a chopping block, do not spray it with adhesive spray from the back. That was the first thing I tried, and what happens is the spray goes into the holes and it's up against the side. Then your rhinestones go in okay, but when you try to lift them out with your hot fix tape, they are very difficult to get out. So now what I do is I'll just take a glue stick, kind of run it around close to where it's cut, and then I'll put some double-sided tape, or I'll just keep using the glue stick around the outside. But since I'm not sure about this file yet, I don't want to waste any of those chopping blocks. I'm just going to hold it down with painter's tape. Now the downside of using cardstock is that since it doesn't have a sticky back, like the real stuff does, it can lift a little bit and rhinestones will want to get under it. So when I tape this down, I need to make sure it's very, very tight. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start with the small one. All right, so to get this tight, just making sure that it's really flat. Now it doesn't look like I need much on the sides. I'll put a little bit just in case. Y'all, I didn't show you hot fix tape, did I? That's something else that I'm going to use today. Now I have my little tray of some hot fix tape that I've used multiple times. So for the cross, it's pretty small. I'm just going to find one in here. All right, I think that'll be just perfect. So on a flag, the part where the stars are, you know, it's blue with white stars. Well, I'm going to use red, and this is going to mimic white for my stripes. So for the cross, I'm actually going to use blue. And I think this dark blue on my lighter blue shirt is going to look really pretty. I hope so. We shall see. All right, so you just dump some on. I always dump way too many. And then you just start going in circular motions. And there's something about the way the rhinestones are shaped and the way the brush works. And when they bump into one another, they magically go into place the right side up, usually. Not always. We'll find some that are upside down, most likely. All right, I think I might actually have them filled. Let's see. We're going to knock off the excess ones. Not knock off, we're going to brush those off. And all I'm doing is I'm not applying pressure. I'm letting the weight of the brush just move those off. I do have one upside down, or it has one piggybacked on it. We'll see. Okay, so now that I have the rhinestones off the actual design, then to get them off of the cardstock, I do apply pressure. Now these are SS10 rhinestones. One time when I was using this little brush with some SS6 rhinestones, I didn't notice they got stuck in the bottom. But an SS6 will get stuck in the bottom of this. And then I went to do my next design with this brush, and lo and behold, the wrong color rhinestone went into my design. And until I figured it out, I thought that I accidentally had mixed up my rhinestone colors. So if you're using SS6s with these, after you're done, flip it over and knock them out. They're easy to get out. So at this time, what I need to do is look for empty holes, look for stones that are upside down, whoops, and look for extra stones that might be on my template. Now, because these stones are dark and my glitter cardstock's dark, you may not be able to see this. There were two rhinestones that were sitting in this hole. One was in the hole, one was kind of piggybacked on top. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those. I didn't mean to get both of them, but I did. And then just put one right back inside. Then I have an empty hole right here, so I'm just going to pick up this extra one, set it there. And then I can see I have one extra one right here. All right, give me a minute to really inspect this. I put my face right over the top of it. I'm going to cut that part out so you're not looking at the back of my head. All right, so here's my hot fix tape. Now, like I said earlier, you can reuse those for a while. After they start getting less sticky, you're going to have issues. But you can reuse them a few times. So I'm going to hold this above my design, and what I like to do is just barely let it stick to my fingertips. I don't want to have to fight to remove my fingers from this, because that's where I found that I'll drag some around. So I'm going to stand up, make this somewhat taco shape, and then lay it down. And you have to do it in one swoop, because if you put it down, pick it up, it's just not good. Okay, so I'm just going to push straight down with my fingers or my hand. I didn't see any shift, but when you do this, sometimes you can actually hear them kind of, not really click into place, but snap into place. And then, I don't know if you can see it, I do have one that got off right here. So I'm going to hold my hot fix tape down with my thumb. I just moved it over into place. So now, since I've used this hot fix tape before, I want to make sure they're really stuck to it. So I tend to put something else over it and then either rub with my fingers. Sometimes I'll get my rolling tool. What's that called? The brayer. I'll use that. But I do like to put something else on it so I'm not really pushing directly on the hot fix tape and shifting it. So now it's time to lift this up and see if all those stuck to the tape. So I'm going to go slowly. And if one didn't stick, I'll lay the hot fix tape down, rub on the top of the rhinestone through the hot fix tape, and pick it back up. All right, those all stuck just fine though. So until I'm ready to press it, I'm going to set it back down on the backing of the hot fix tape. Now I think I see one. Yes, I see one that I really don't like, and it's right here. See how that one's kind of out of place? It's a little bit up on its side, so I'll work with that. Well, that was easy. All right, let's push down on it. So I'm ready to just set this aside and do the other 2 layers. All right, I'm going to go ahead and slow this down because I want to talk to you about a couple things. One thing is, if you're going to use dark colored stones, like I did on the last 2, then the black glitter cardstock is a little bit harder to see, or to see the rhinestones. Now you're going to see on these, with these being the crystal, there's going to be a much bigger contrast between the rhinestone and the cardstock. So if you're going to use darker stones, and if you're going to try the glitter cardstock, this one's a little bit lighter. And so with dark stones, I would have been able to see a little bit better on that. Like my Power Cat head. All right, I'm probably going to speed this back up here in just a minute. But when I get toward the end of this, once I get my hot fix tape on, I want to talk to you about something. And it's something that I've discovered has really benefited me. All right, so I'll be back in just a couple minutes. Now here's what I was talking about before. See the contrast between the black and the crystal? That makes it so much easier to work with. You can tell that you have rhinestones out of place. You can see excess rhinestones easier. It is definitely easier to work with. All right, where'd that rhinestone magically disappear to? Okay, it's definitely easier to work with the glitter or the glitter cardstock if it's not so close to your rhinestone color. All right, that one was upside down. Let's flip it over, set it back down into place. So I have an excess one here. I'll just move it up. Get any excess ones that I see off. I don't know if you noticed in the fast forward on the last one, I thought I had all the excess ones off, and I think I actually had to pull 2 off of the hot fix tape. And I really feel like that's a product of the glitter cardstock and the stones being so close to the same color, or at least both very dark. All right, so come on. Do we see any excess rhinestones? Do we see any upside down rhinestones? I definitely don't see any open holes because with the turquoise background, those are easy to find. So just like before, I'm just going to barely have it attached to my fingertips. And then once I like the placement of it, I'm going to go straight in. No flinching. Now, on my last layer, I was using this to press in. and that did not give enough push. I had quite a few that weren't attached to the transfer tape. So that's a no-go from now on. But again, I don't really like to rub straight on this because your finger can shift it and then that's going to mess up the stones. Now if you're really careful, you're fine. But sometimes that can be a bull in a china shop. So I'm going to do this instead. I know it works for a lot of people, but you just have to do what works for you. So experiment, try different things, and see what you like. All right, I found my brayer. I'm not pushing super hard. I got stuck. There we go. Not pushing super hard, but I do want to make sure these stick better than my last layer did. All right, so here's something else that I want to show you. This is what I was talking about earlier that I learned. Maybe other people do this. I don't know. I just kind of discovered it. I used to pull it up and I'd pull it up and it'd hang in the air. And one of the first ones I did, the hot fix tape kind of folded in and touched each other. And that ruined my design. So on a bigger template like this, it wasn't necessary with that first one. I pull up, and as I pull up, I'm pulling to one side or this way. It doesn't really matter which way. But I pull, then, hold on, my microphone's in the way. Then, instead of holding it up in the air or lifting it up in the air, I just roll it on its back and let gravity do its thing. Now at this point I might lift it up and put it face down on the backing of the transfer tape or the hot fix tape, but I'm going to go ahead and lay my hot fix tape backing down. Getting rhinestones stuck to my hand. Then I'll go ahead and turn it over and see what they look like. Now I'm looking at the camera, there's a big glare. So I'll just kind of lift it sideways so you can see they're all in there. They look good. So it's time to get this put on my shirt. All right, here's the pressing mat of my heat press. And I have a piece of parchment paper on it simply because I got some sublimation ink on the pad. So I'm just protecting the back of my shirt. Now I've already pre-pressed this shirt for two reasons: to remove moisture and to get a nice smooth surface that I can work with. Now I can feel the edge of my pad is right here. The collar's on it. I want to move that up. I don't like to press on the collar because it leaves it kind of a different texture. You ever see a sheen or anything like that after you've pressed it there? All right, I'm going to pull this down so I can make sure my shirt's straight when I do this. All right, here's my cross, and I'm going to have it really close to my collar because this is kind of a long design. So all I'm going to do is see where I need to have this. Now before I take the backing off this, because it is sticky, I'm just going to place it down, kind of get a good idea of where I want this. Now notice the design isn't straight on my paper, so it kind of looks crooked. Once I get this white backing out, I think that it'll be less deceptive and we'll really see if it's straight. So from the bottom of the collar, this is right at 5 inches, and I hear my heat press beeping. Let me do something about that. All right, so once again, this needs to be about 5 inches down. Let's go ahead and remove the rhinestones from the backing. Being very careful that you don't accidentally let two pieces of this stick together like I was talking about. All right, a little bit more than 5 inches, but that's okay. Now, since these are very linear, I want to try to make them as straight as possible, but I'm going to try not to sweat the small stuff if they're not perfect. Now, I definitely need that to be pretty much in the center because my cross goes right above it, and if it's not fairly centered, it's going to be noticeable. I think that works. All right, what do you think? Straight enough? Let's go press it on. All right, I have my heat press set at 350, and I'm going to press these for 12 seconds. Those are beautiful. I don't know that the camera does it justice. It usually doesn't, but they're beautiful. Now, when I designed this, I designed it so that there's 3 rhinestones that go below each row. You'll see what I mean here in just a minute. So that's how I'm going to try to place it. So here's what I mean by that. There should be 3 red stones above this row. There should be 3 crystal stones below this row. And then I need to move it over so that the spacing is even. All right, with a lot of finagling, I think I'm good. Now I notice a red one right there that's not in the right place. I'm going to try to remove that before I move on. So I have my little heat wand and some tweezers. So I'm going to heat up the one that's out of place and try to move it over. And actually I'll probably take it off and just use a new one. But I have everything situated so nicely. I'm going to go ahead and heat these on. Now hopefully the glue that's left on there, which will be mainly covered, I'm not too concerned about it. Hopefully it doesn't cause the hotfix tape to not come up. All right, so I'm going to do this again 12 seconds. Now with the baby spooty rhinestones, which is what these crystal ones are, she says go ahead and take this off immediately. And try not to mess up your hotfix tape because you can reuse that. All right, that's stuck down enough. Now I can do the cross, and when I press down on that design, it'll make that fully stick. Now again, I made this. I wanted to mimic the stripes, I wanted to mimic a shield, and I wanted to have a cross on it. And the way I was viewing this is one nation under God. I love how this came out, and I really love it on the blue shirt. So thanks so much for joining me today, and until my next video, bye-bye.